Okay, hi, my name is Sylvia, and I want to share with you guys how I prepared for the CEDILS exam. So, the CEDILS exam is basically a certificate for how to teach Italian to foreigners. We mean foreigners by people whose mother tongue is not Italian. And so I took this exam last year, September 23rd, through the Società Dante Alighieri in the city of Mexico. And it was a proctored exam done through the webcam, etc. And I passed, and I did well. Um, let's see. And I started studying for this exam in the month of February, so mid-February. And so I just want to share a bit how I went about doing that. Yes. So then mid-February, I pulled out all of my old files for TESOL, because I did TESOL like around 14 years ago. So then I took out the TESOL files, and then I tried to look at how I could apply this to teaching Italian. So I took some notes, things like that, just to get back into the habit of studying. And then mid-March, what happened is, well, before then, I had this book, right? CEDILS. It's written by Graziano Serragiotto. It's a very good study guide. Inside this book, there's the reading list for the CEDILS course. So I ordered those books ahead of time, and then the books arrived mid-March. With the CEDILS, you can take an online course, or you can take courses at the university in Italy, but I didn't want to do that because the courses are quite expensive too. They're around 300 euros, and it just didn't work out. And I thought, oh, I can study for this exam on my own. So then this book was like the map, basically. And then my books arrived mid-March, so it was great. I had, I think, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 books, something like that. And then from those books, I made my own curriculum. So it's not too complicated. I made a linear curriculum. So for example, for pedagogy, for CEDILS, you would start with the theory, and then I think I built something around students, and then about techniques for teaching. And then so I pulled out from each book, like I grouped them thematically, basically. So for theory, if I had 3 or 4 books, and I pulled out which chapters, and then for the type of students, and then also for technique. And this the curriculum, it kind of shifted a bit, but in general I followed that guideline, so I was able to get all of my reading done. And then so that was the reading that I did from mid-March to about June. So when I first started studying, it was just so much content, and I just didn't go into my head. So I decided to write summaries and then make videos, and as if I was presenting, and it just helped me process the information and the concepts once more. So in the month of June, what I started to do is I started to practice, because the CEDILS exam it's a written exam. It's not a purely theoretical exam. It's 5 hours long, so there's 5 parts to it. The first part is theory, which is basically just the definitions. The second part is making a lesson plan. The third is analysis of teaching materials. The fourth is teaching a grammar point. And the fifth is a reflection of intercultural communication and teaching Italian. So 4 parts are very, very practical. So the month of June, I pulled out Lecture 40. I call it Lecture 40, which is basically, it's a sequence of grammatical points. It takes the learner from the basic, like from beginner to, let's say, low intermediate. And so I would use these grammar points, and then I would build my lessons around these. So what I would do is I would produce like a lesson plan. And then since I didn't have a teacher and I wasn't taking a course, it was hard for me to get feedback. So what I would do is I would correct the work the next day, and I would compare it to the techniques and the strategies and the plans that were presented in my textbooks. So from these two, I got, I guess, a good type of feedback. And it was good in that sense. And then I would continue writing. So then for the month of June, I worked on Leisure, and then once it was the month of July, I really stepped up in the sense that I had to work on my endurance, because the CEDILS is a 5-hour exam. I started with 2.5 hours, then I would work up to 3 hours, to work up to writing for 3.5, and then once I got to 4, I thought, okay, I'm in very good shape for this exam. So then what I did was I would build my endurance. And then at the end, I was able to write the full 5 hours in the month of September. And since my mother tongue is not Italian, I knew that I couldn't get a very high score, right? Because it's a limit that I have, right? It's just easier to accept it. But then what was good is that to pass the CEDILS, you need 66 out of 100. And I thought, okay, for distinction, you need, I think, 90 or you need 80. 80 or 90, there's different levels of distinction. So I thought, okay, I'll aim towards 80. And so I finished, I passed the exam with, I think it was a 73, which was good. It wasn't exactly what I aimed for, the 80, but it was above, it was more than what I expected, right? And it was a really, really hard exam. And what's funny is I didn't know how hard this exam was until I actually passed it and I read about what this exam stands for. In the sense that for TESOL is much more, you have the files, you have the units, you do the worksheets, and you hand in the homework, you get corrected, and then you can get your certificate. But the CEDILS is very intense, and I'm not surprised that there's separate courses for the CEDILS, and I'm not surprised that it's offered through universities, because the CEDILS is actually, according to this website, the official document from the Ministry of Education Italy, the CEDILS is actually graduate level work for teaching Italian. So it's the equivalent of like a master's degree. So it's very, very intense. And but I loved taking it. It was a very, very difficult process, but I learned a lot, and I loved how the way that they structured CEDILS is, the basic assumption is that just teaching the language is not the point of teaching Italian. It's teaching the culture and the language together, right? And so I loved how it was very integrated. And then I think my original motivation, what pushed me to take the CEDILS, which was how I was so disappointed with the quality of Italian language teaching. I think I was, I guess, humbled and a bit surprised, and I was really glad to take study for the CEDILS, because I realized that actually the Italian language, it can be taught very beautifully, and it can be taught very systematically, and it can be taught in an excellent manner. So in that way, it redeemed my disappointment, let's say. Yes, so it is a very hard exam. However, it's worth it. I don't know how many English speakers actually take this exam. I would have to find some statistics. I'm pretty sure a lot of Italians would take this exam, though, because a lot of Italian teachers are mother tongue Italian speakers, right? But that was my adventure. And so if you need any help preparing for this exam, or if you need some tips on how to structure or build a curriculum, you can visit my website at www.labellalingua.org. I'll leave some more information below, and I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Ciao.